Well, hello there, and good evening, Giants fans. Happy Thursday. Happy game day, Bills and Dolphins at the top of the hour. But we're going to take you up to kick off there. Big shout out to SeatGeek. Go out, check out SeatGeek for sponsoring this portion of the show. Make sure you guys enter that promo code Giants Collective 10. You get 10% off of your purchase at SeatGeek. And of course, if the Giants start 0-2, you might already get a discount. So you get an extra 10%. On top of that discount, links in the description. Click on that. Check them out. Check us out on Apple, Spotify, Amazon, iHeartRadio, wherever you get your podcasts. Leave us a 5-star review on Apple. That helps. Hit the thumbs up. Subscribe. That also helps. We're closing in on 5,700 subscribers. You can follow us on TikTok and Instagram as well. All that good stuff is in the description below. And if you want to become a member, get your name in the outros, and you get those really cool emojis, all you got to do is click the join button, and you can be a member of Giants Collective. As always, I'm joined by Adriana down there, Anthony over there, this guy pissing Darius Slayton off down here. Chris got in with one of the players. Chris is out there doing his best bad dog, irritating the players, but he actually didn't see anything bad, but it is what it is.
I didn't direct it at him. It was whatever.
That was very ironic. But before we get into the Chiefs, I actually kind of want to touch on that. Not necessarily Darius Slayton, but what I think this points at, we're 0-2. We lost a heartbreaker to Dallas. This has been a bad team for many years now. This isn't like an aberration. That's why I always laugh when people are like, when I do a video and I'm like, we got to fire Bowen, and I'm kind of out on Dable now, like we got to make a change. Oh, it's only 2 games, bad dog. I'm like, what did you just start watching us this year? This is not just 2 games. We've been bad for years. We weren't 11-6 last year. We weren't 12-5. We weren't a good team last year. We weren't a good team in 2023, and we're not a good team so far this year. And the reason I'm pointing this out is because when Chris mentioned this, if you missed it on Twitter, all Chris was talking about was how good Slayton-Neighbors is. And pretty much the most touchdown receptions anybody had in a year since 2020 was 4.
But the basic point of my tweet, I was bored on the train going to work, and in my head I'm like, I'm just curious to see who the Giants touchdown leaders were over the years. So I looked, I said, well, what was the first year that the Giants offense was stagnant? So I went back to 2020 and I saw it was 4-4-3-3. So I posted that and I'm like, and look at Neighbors. He's had 7. He's got 9 in his first 17 games. Darius Slayton didn't like that. It is what it is. But yeah, it was just to show that we finally have that Odell Beckham-like receiver back in this offense, something that Giants fans have been complaining about since he was traded. As you guys all know, I love League. I think he's the best receiver in the league, and I'm always thinking about him. I almost think about him as much as I think about the 300-pound men. So I'm a big fan of League. So
the reason I mention this, we'll start with Adriana, because I think the players are frustrated. And I think Darius Slayton, I don't even know how he found Chris's tweet, but again, Chris didn't say anything derogatory. He was just pointing out how good Slayton-Neighbors is. And Slayton said something to the effect of, I understand Malik's good, but you don't need to make us look like bums. And that's not, Chris is just telling the stats. I mean, if you feel like you look like a bum, that's your guilty conscience. I mean, the stats are the stats. He wasn't saying anything derogatory. So, Adriana, at what point because you've heard Dexter Lawrence is frustrated. I mean, you can take this stuff with a grain of salt, what these beat writers say. But what I got out of Darius Slayton responding to Chris the way he did was he's frustrated. He's been here a long time. We love Slay. He's a consummate professional. He took a pay cut to stay here, which we commended him for, because he could have left any time and went to a better team. How bad is the frustration boiling over already, especially losing a heartbreaker like that to a division rival?
Yeah, I mean, like we've said, Slayton has been here for so long, and if anyone feels the losing, it's guys like him and Dexter Lawrence and Thomas. And I feel for them, like they don't have the it's not up to them who they bring in to help this football team. Like they don't get to make decisions on coaches and coordinators and playbooks and things like that. Like, yes, I'm sure they're involved to a degree, but realistically is John Mara and Steve Tisch make those decisions and they have to deal with it. And, Darius has been a victim to bad quarterback play, bad offensive line play, bad scheme. He's dropped some balls that come his way, which most certainly have not helped. injuries, the list goes on. So, I don't blame him for being frustrated. I feel the same way about Dexter Lawrence. If I were in their shoes, I would also be very frustrated, especially someone like Dexter who has unbelievable seasons every single year for the last 3 or 4 years. So it's a huge bummer, but like we say, winning cures all. If they go out on Sunday and they beat the Chiefs, that's it. They don't care. They feel good. They beat a good football team and they can move on from there. And we talked about this too, that if Sunday's game against the Cowboys looked like the Commanders or they end up winning, we're having very different conversations this week. Darius Slayton probably doesn't respond to that tweet because he doesn't care. He feels good that they're 1-1. They put up 37 points against a division rival and they won. And now they're going into the Chiefs at home and they feel like they have a chance. So, I feel for him, but ultimately it was his decision to remain with this team. And he knew the coaching staff was sticking around. He knew he was going to be dealing with Dable and whatever offensive line changes they were going to make and whatnot. And he felt like that was the right decision for him. So I hope that in the long run, it pays off. I hope that his loyalty and willing to stay on board was the right decision for him. And we've all talked about this. We love Darius Slayton. I want nothing more for him than to have a career year. If he has 800 yards, he ends up being top 5 Giants receivers of all time or top 10, I think. So, we all want that for him. We're all rooting him on. I've been so disappointed. He's had 3 targets in 2 games. So I think Slayton brings a lot to this offense, especially with his speed. And I just hope that we actually get to see it. And I'm sure he would also feel better, if he had a game like Wandale did, or he put up 80 or 100 yards and they still lost, maybe he's feeling differently. I don't know. But I really don't blame them for being frustrated. I just hope that after what happened on Sunday, and from what I'm hearing from Carl Banks about the feeling in the building and the energy, that there's a renewed sense of urgency. I think that, this is a big game and they have to go out there and win it, and they're capable, and Shane Bowen is going to make some changes. So I hope that plus the frustration, they can put it together and take it out on the football field on the Chiefs players. I would love that.
Yes.
Anthony, how bad do you think the only reason I brought this up is because it's I don't usually see, now I'm not all over Twitter and I don't follow other fan bases, but it's rare to see a reaction like that. And again, Darius Slayton's been a very professional guy, but how bad do you think it is boiling over for some of the guys like Slayton, like Dex, that have been here for a long time and really outside of that 1 year, know nothing but losing? And maybe the fact that Slayton hasn't been targeted that often this year is also frustrating, but is it already starting to boil over in that locker room that we can't win, or we got to find a way to win? How frustrating do you think it is for those guys?
I'm sure it's extremely frustrating. It's been years and years of losing, and they're wasting the primes of certain players. I mean, Dexter Lawrence is in his prime. This is when he should be doing his most winning. This is when he should be playing at his highest level, and he is. And he's losing all these games for reasons that have nothing to do with him. So that has to be frustrating. That has to piss you off. And you have to go into the building every day saying, we need to start winning, or I have to make changes, or I have to think about this differently from my point of view, right? Whenever we see players like Myles Garrett earlier this offseason, right? He's been frustrated because he's been on a bad Browns team for a very long time. They gave him a humongous contract to shut him up about it, but he still got frustrated and he wanted out. And that's the last thing that we want as Giants fans. We get comments every time we do these live streams about people saying, if we don't start winning games, Slayton-Neighbors is going to ask for a trade and he's going to leave. And you're not necessarily wrong to think that way if you're a fan and you feel like all this losing is going to take a toll on these players who are super talented and they're going to want to play elsewhere where they know that they can win. They probably will, but the Giants just need to be better. They need to start winning games, and then winning cures everything in the NFL. That's really what it comes down to. So I'm sure they are really frustrated, but I will say I feel like the temperament of the players this week too is not nearly as dangerous as it was last week too. I think last year they were hitting the panic button a little bit harder. I think they behaved a little bit more frustrated last year. I mean, they were booed after 3 plays to start the season last year. That hasn't exactly happened. Yeah, well, they were on the road this season to start the year, so that hasn't exactly happened. But I don't know. I think that if they're able to just put something together that's respectable on Sunday night versus the Chiefs, if they can keep that thing close at home in front of the fans on prime time, I think that they'll be able to keep their temperament and hopefully start to feel a little bit less frustrated. But I mean, if they go 0-4 to start the season again, we're all frustrated. Of course, the players are going to be frustrated too.
Chris, you're the one that tweeted that out. Definitely probably didn't expect that response.
No.
I doubt it. So what were you thinking when he responded like that, and how frustrating do you think it is for the players?
I didn't even realize it till maybe 2 hours after he retweeted it, just because I saw a lot of people were responding to my tweet. I'm like, why is this so suddenly getting a lot of traction?
That's that one. I wonder that's
when you put out a tweet, a lot of times you won't have a lot of engagement, and usually teeters off over the coming hours. It was building up, and then all of a sudden I looked at who
retweets.
I'm like, oh, Darius Slayton retweeted, so that's why. Yeah, I mean, it is what it is. I'm not I as I said today on Twitter, I took down the tweet because I don't go on Twitter to fight with fans. I don't go on Twitter to fight with players. At the end of the day, I'm a Giants fan, and I don't want my team to look bad. And I think some people may turn it that Darius Slayton doesn't look good, that he's responding to a fan on Twitter. It may make the team look bad. So I'm like, I'm just going to delete it. I love Darius Slayton. I've said that countless times. That wasn't meant as to be. I could understand why he would take it that way, because his name was on the list twice. He's been the best receiver on this team since Odell Beckham. And I basically said that we've lacked the number one wide receiver, but that's just true. That's just reality. Since Odell Beckham left, I think Darius Slayton's a good receiver. I think he's a really good New York Giant. I think he's a fan favorite. He's gone out of his way to help the New York Giants from a contract standpoint. He ended up coming back a few years ago, taking a pay cut where he was getting next to nothing. And this year he signed when he would have had an opportunity to go to a lot of other places to be able to compete. And he elected to stay with the New York Giants. And I always respected the way the way that he handled the Daniel Jones situation. He was very outspoken, supporting his quarterback. I think he's a good leader. I was very happy when he got the captain's badge this year. So yeah, it is what it is. I'm sure Slayton's frustrated, right? If you're a player on the team and you pay attention to social media, which if I was a player, I wouldn't, because it's nothing but negative when the team's doing bad. That's just the reality of the world we live in now. And if you're a player on a team, especially in a New York market where you have passionate fans, a lot of fans that are constantly negative on Twitter, and you see something with your name in it that you take, to be negative towards you, I get it. I hope, it inspires him and he plays better this week. So hopefully I lit a fire under his ass and he has 110 yards and 2 touchdowns. That's the way I'm thinking about it as a fan, even though I wasn't meant towards him. But hopefully him taking it that way, hopefully he has a big game because of it.
I agree. If anybody's going to rub the Giants the wrong way, it's usually me. And I'm unapologetic about it because I'm rough. Chris is the last guy that wants to do that. I don't care. I'm that way. But Chris, to tell you, I always got Chris's back. I've been working with Chris since 2018, and I know, and not that Darius Slayton probably didn't read my tweet either, but I pretty much let him know that's not a slight on you. We respect you. We appreciate everything Darius Slayton's done. It's just that's how lackluster this offense has been. Whether not that that's Slayton's fault. How many quarterbacks has he had? And he don't get nearly the targets Malik Neighbors does. But again, it's not a slight. Malik Neighbors was the 6th overall pick in the draft. Malik Neighbors is the best receiver in football. Of course you're going to target him. I mean, you want to get him the football. And I always look at the way I react when we lose games. Man, I'm pissed. I mean, anybody that watches my post-game videos knows I'm mad. I am literally mad. So if I'm just a fan and I'm just sitting in my chair here screaming at my camera after watching lose, what do you think those players are going through when they constantly lose? It has to be frustrating for a guy like Slayton, who's been here since 2019, like Dex, who's been here since 2019. They've been a really bad team. And those guys, Slayton has been the best wide receiver until Malik got here. Dex is probably still our best defensive player. People are saying he's having an off year, and he's like 2nd in defensive lineman ranking. You take PFF with a grain of salt. But people are like, Dex ain't having a good year. He's still like the 2nd best lineman in the league. And then he's having a bad year because he has no sacks. That's how good Dexter Lawrence is. And again, he's probably thinking the same thing as Slayton. I don't have, how many more years do I have? How many more years is it going to take before this team can get its shit together? Maybe I'm never going to win anything. It's frustrating for everybody, man. And like I said, when guys are telling me, Baddog, it's only been 2 games. Oh, you talking about firing people? It hasn't been 2 games. Ask Darius Slayton if it's been just 2 games. Ask Dexter Lawrence if it's been just 2 games. Oh, guys, don't get frustrated. It's only been 2 games. No, it's been years of this. It has to turn around, man. They were very close That was a heartbreaking loss to Dallas. All we can hope for, man, is that again, I'm not one for moral victories, but hopefully they got some confidence from that game. And they said, listen, man, we were this close to beating a team we ain't beaten in 8 years. We can hang with Dallas. We can hang with Kansas City, because we know as Giants fans, I mean, it was years ago, but all you got to do is look at that 2017. They weren't supposed to win one playoff game, and they went through everybody because of that last game against the Patriots that they lost, mind you. They lost that game, but I felt like that gave them a ton of confidence. And I'm hoping that's what happens from the Dallas game, is they get confidence from it and it pisses them off. And they say, we got to finish this time. Remember that was Tom Coughlin's whole thing in 2011. Finish.
Yeah.
They can beat the Chiefs. They have to finish. And hopefully we're not playing the Chiefs and the Zebras this week, because we know. And Adrian, you have a striped shirt on, so hopefully that's a good omen for us. Yeah. Anthony, what do the Giants got to do to beat the Chiefs? Well, I know we can do it. What do we got to do it?
Have to score points, and that's going to be easier said than done against the Spagnuolo defense, as we all know. But you also have to try your best to contain Patrick Mahomes. For as underwhelming as the Chiefs' offense has been this year, Patrick Mahomes has looked really good. He's shown up big in the clutch for them. Now, the rest of the team maybe hasn't given him enough help, but I think back to that game in week 1 versus the Chargers. He was scrambling and running and picking up clutch first down after clutch first down. He had a really bad miss against the Philadelphia Eagles last week where he overthrew a wide open receiver, and then a drive later, he hit this absolute bomb 45 yards downfield into the back of the end zone. So he's still Patrick Mahomes. He just doesn't have the proper amount of help around him that he's had in the past due to injuries. But it sounds like Xavier Worthy, we thought that he wasn't going to play this week. Well, now he might, probably in some limited capacity, but that's still a big boost to this offense. And I think Mahomes is one of the most dangerous players in the NFL when he's on. Obviously, he works with the refs, so you have to keep that in mind and not hit him too hard or not hit him late or whatever. But this is a better team than their record suggests, the Kansas City Chiefs. I actually do feel that way about the Giants as well. I think that they're better than the 0-2 record suggests, but it's totally true for the Chiefs. It just feels like they're having a little bit of a rut here. I don't think they're the same quality of team that they've been in the past, but I still think Patrick Mahomes is the same quality of player. And now they're just trying to figure out some of the other things. And their defense is still really good. So in order for the Giants to win, again, you're going to have to try and find a way to disrupt Patrick Mahomes without pissing him off too badly, because then he turns into like a demigod on the field. But you got to disrupt Patrick Mahomes somehow, and you have to put up points against a really tough defense, and that's going to be hard. So how are the Giants going to do that? They need to finally figure out how to run the ball. That's number one, because I think we saw last week, Russell Wilson, when he's got time in the pocket, when he's got some good play calls, he's going to hit the throws like we all expected him to, like we all said he could during the summer. But the running game is doing him no favors. Yeah, Cam Scatterbo went in there and he provided a spark last week. He still only ran for 45 yards, and 35 of those yards came after contact. 35 of his 45 yards are after he already put his shoulder down into somebody. First of all, that's insane. Cam Scatterbo is awesome. But second of all, that means he's getting hit in or around the line of scrimmage on nearly every single play. And that can't continue to happen. The Giants need to find ways to push the pile and make it easier for their running backs. If they can do that, then they can open up even more of the passing game with a strong running game in tandem with it. And then their offense can become a little bit more consistent, especially in the red zone. So that's got to be the number one thing. They need to improve their offense, and they need to actually score points when they do make it to the red zone.
Chris, what do the Giants got to do to beat the Chiefs? And I'll be right back.
You'll be right back. I completely agree with everything Anthony said about Pat Mahomes. I still think Pat Mahomes, regardless of the statistical drop-off that we've seen over the last couple of years, I feel like Pat Mahomes is kind of going through a phase in his career that Brady did when he had a lack of weapons before they went out and got him Randy Moss for the second half of his career. I think the Chiefs need to do that for Pat Mahomes, and I expect that they will in the next year or two. He's got satisfactory weapons when they're healthy. Even like if Worthy plays, I still don't view him as an incredible wide receiver, but he's solid. Kelsey's getting up there in age. The Chiefs offense is struggling, much like the Giants offense, like you just said, in terms of running the ball. Isaiah Pacheco has run for nothing, but this could be the remedy for that running offense for the Kansas City Chiefs if you're a Chiefs fan. I do think the offense is not near what it's been in years past, but I'm never going to discount Pat Mahomes. Pat Mahomes is the type of quarterback that could flip a switch on, and no matter how bad the offense has looked over the first two games, and they could put up 40 points against the New York Giants, especially the way that this defense has looked. But that being said, I do think this will be a competitive football game. I'm not going to pick the Giants because they're the Chiefs. And it's very hard for me to imagine the Kansas City Chiefs starting 0-3. And they are better than us. They're a better football team. Let's be real. But I do think it'll be a competitive game. And I think the Giants defense, I said it before the show today, I think it's going to be a reverse of last game. I think a lot of people are excited about the Giants offense, rightfully so, last week because they put 37 points up on the Dallas Cowboys. But I think some of that at least had to do with the fact that Dallas defense is awful. And I think it's going to continue to get exposed throughout the course of this year. They have a very good offense, but the Dallas defense is awful. The Chiefs defense is very good. And I worry about our interior offensive line going up against Chris Jones, who one of the best, if not the best interior defensive lineman in the sport. It's going to be hard to contain him with the vulnerabilities of our offensive line. It's in the interior specifically. It's good to see that Andrew Thomas is going to be back, but even that being the case, or more than likely is going to be back, but even that being the case, I don't expect vintage Andrew Thomas his first couple of games. So maybe you get 60% of Andrew Thomas. So I think we're going to struggle offensively in this game, but I do think we will be able to create a good pass rush against this Kansas City offensive line. Their tackles aren't very good. We do have a very good pass rush. And even last week when the defense struggled, the pass rush was still effective. So I think we'll be actually create a couple of turnovers or have some opportunities to create some turnovers in this game. And I do think it'll be competitive, but I'm going Chiefs. I think they're the better team, and I hope I'm wrong, but I think it'll be a close game.
Adriana, what do we have to do to beat the Chiefs?
I think they have to take Travis Kelce out of the game. I know he doesn't look like himself and he's had some drops here and there, but you know what wouldn't surprise me is Travis Kelce having a bounce back game on Sunday Night Football against the Giants, because as the Chiefs just saw, if they watched the Giants film, we don't know how to cover the tight end. We couldn't do it against Jake Ferguson. So why would we ever be able to cover Travis Kelce? I don't care how old and slow and checked out of football and not captain he is. He is still someone who has a lot of history in this league of being a good football player. And the last time that we played the Chiefs, Travis Kelce had a great game. So I really need the Giants to be able to cover Travis Kelce. This is not the week to let him show up and run all over us and go for 100 yards and 2 touchdowns. So you know that he was acting crazy on the sideline and he's all pissed off. So he's going to come out in this game having a vengeance. And I just want the Giants to be able to cover him and not let him beat us. Let Xavier Worthy, the speedster, beat us. Let Isaiah Pacheco beat us. Let Patrick Mahomes do it. Do not let Travis Kelce be the guy that does it. The tight end that the Giants can't ever cover for going back probably 10 years at this point. They have to figure it out. And, I'm trying to be optimistic about the defense because the things that I've heard and, the offense was able to seemingly flip a switch from week 1 to week 2. The defense has to do the same. Shane Bowen said he second-guessed that call and he knows that it was a mistake and he's not going to do it again. He also said he second-guesses every call. But, from what I've heard, especially from someone like Carl Banks, who's in the building, it sounds like there's a renewed sense of urgency there and that there are going to be some significant changes made to this defense. I hope we see it all as soon as Sunday night. I don't know if we will or not, but I'm willing to trust Carl on that, who's in there with the players. And just hope that they can be better in man coverage, that they can play less soft zone. And I want to see them get after the quarterback. Patrick Mahomes is their leading rusher. So we have to be able to put pressure on him. He's not immune to throwing interceptions or turning the ball over. So I think if the Giants can get a takeaway or 2 during this game, I think that can drastically also change the momentum of it and put the game in the Giants' favor, that they can go ahead and win this game.
We can beat this team if we don't beat ourselves. No penalties, man. They have to limit penalties. You cannot give Kansas City extra yards, and we can't take extra yards away from ourselves, especially those after the whistle, for those stupid ones, the tauntings and the unnecessary roughness. And I'm not talking about you jump up to try to knock a pass down and you hit Mahomes in the head. I mean, that's an accident. The one terrible call against Dak where it was a Nacho that had him and he was bringing him down. You can't tell a 300-pound lineman, hey, you're on the way down to the ground. Defy gravity. It's such a stupid call. He drove him in with all of his weight. What do you want the guy to do? He's 300 pounds. Of course he's going to drive him into the ground. Just give the quarterbacks flags. I'm serious. You can't touch him. You can't hit him low. You can't hit him high. You can't hit him late. You can't touch him, especially a guy like Mahomes. You can't breathe on him. So they got to be extremely disciplined in this game because they've been very undisciplined the first 2 games. And this is why I'm down on the coaching, because to me, those type of things, penalties and missed tackles, it tells me they're not practicing very well, or they're not prepared. They're not coached well. They should not be committing 160 yards in penalties. They can't even have half that against Kansas City if they're going to win. Now, Mahomes is great. He's the best quarterback of this generation, without question. I mean, the guy is just he's amazing. He's awesome. We should have drafted him. Good job, Jerry Reese, you moron, not wanting to trade up again. But I digress. They don't look the same. That offense is not explosive. There's not really a ton of big plays like they used to have. It really is Travis Kelce was their big play guy underneath in the seam on the crossing routes where he gets free and he gets away from a linebacker and he gets an extra 15 to 20 yards. Like Adriana said, that can't happen. The Giants can get pressure on Pat Mahomes. You've seen the Eagles do it. I think the Giants front 7 is almost as good as Philadelphia's. And I think if Bowen blitzes, you're going to get there. And if you're going to beat Mahomes, that's how you have to do it. You have to make him throw off spot. You have to make him uncomfortable in the pocket. You have to make sure that he's throwing under duress, because if he can sit back there, if you're playing soft zone against him, he's going to light you up. You can't give Mahomes time. Bring extra pressure, man. You're the underdog in this game at home, even though the Chiefs are 0-2, like Anthony said. They're the Chiefs, man. They're going to go in there with all the confidence in the world. The Giants are always the get-right team for everybody. Well, this Sunday night, I would like to see it where, the Giants aren't that team. When they come out with a ton of energy and they put Mahomes on his ass a number of times early in the game. Because if they score 28 points a wrap, we're not scoring 28 points in this game. We're not. Russ ain't throwing 6 moon balls against Kansas City's defense. So the Giants have to be smart. They can't commit penalties. They can't commit turnovers. They got to play as very close to the best. And I'm not saying that means be very conservative on offense. You have to take some shots, but you have to pick your spots where you take your shots. I'm a poet and I don't know it, but you can't commit those stupid penalties, man. You can't have that stuff. You can't have delay of games. You can't waste timeouts because you don't get to play in time. Like that type of shit can't happen. If you're going to beat Kansas City, you have to play almost a perfect game where you're not killing yourself with bad mistakes. If the Giants can do those things, which again, that's a big if with this team, there's no reason to think that they can't be in this game, because I don't think Kansas City is going to run roughshod and go up and down the field like Dallas did. I don't think that's their offense. They like to grind it out. They like to have 7-8 minute drives. They're not a big play off. I know Worthy's fast, and I know Mahomes can still throw the ball deep, but that's not what they do on a regular basis. A lot of times it is little dunk passes. It's running the football. They have 12, 14 play drives. The Giants got to limit that. If the Giants can hold them to 21, they're going to be right in this game. So
one guy I want to mention that I need to see show up this week, and I love him to death. He's arguably the best player on this team. I need to see a big performance from Dexter Lawrence. I don't think that we've seen that yet this year. I'm not saying he hasn't had some individual, good moments in these games, but I need to see a dominating performance in this game from Dexter Lawrence. He's got to get that interior pressure against Mahomes if we intend to create some turnovers against a turnover. He's not as allergic to turnovers. And I think if we're going to be able to create those, Dexter Lawrence has to have a big game.
Yeah. Like Adriana said, he's not immune to turning the ball over. And because Mahomes will take some chances. He doesn't care. So if you can, like I said, make him throw off spot and he's not comfortable in the pocket, that's how you force turnovers. And if you're going to score against a tough Chiefs defense, it helps to have a short field. So we're going to have to lean on the defense. To your point, Chris, I agree with you. It'll be a complete role reversal from last week. This will be a much lower scoring game. I'll be surprised if both of these teams are scoring above 24 points. I'd be shocked. I don't know what the over-under is in this game. I'd imagine it's probably 44, 45, somewhere in there.
If I had to guess, yeah.
But, I don't think it'll go over. I think it'll be a lower scoring game. If it does go over, we're in trouble because we're not going to keep up with the Chiefs because their defense is much better. So, I don't know. I think we can win. Maybe it's just me being a fan, me being delusional, me just praying to the gods above to give us a victory for once. Because, we say it all the time as fans, we need it, but the players, they really need to feel good, man. They really need a victory bad. The coaches.
I just looked it up, by the way, Baddog. You nailed it. 45.5 is the over under.
Yeah. See, I can do this stuff. Speaking of doing this stuff, want to give a big shout out, of course, to SeatGeek. SeatGeek sponsors this portion of the show. Make sure you guys, if you're going to get your tickets, get them at SeatGeek. Use that promo code Giants Collective 10 to get 10% off your SeatGeek purchase. Let's hear from our sponsor. 80 seconds back after this with your questions. See you in a bit. What's going on, guys and gals? You looking for a fun activity? You want to get out of the house? You need something to do? Are you looking for a great gift idea? Well, if so, look no farther than the sponsor of Giants Collective, which is SeatGeek. With over 35 million downloads, SeatGeek is the #1 rated ticketing app. There's more than 70,000 events listed on SeatGeek, including concerts, sports, festivals, and more. Giants season is underway. And say you want to check out Jaden Daniels and the Washington Commanders at MetLife Stadium? Well, it's easy. Just go to SeatGeek, scroll around, look for the tickets that you want, and SeatGeek's going to have your back. Each ticket is rated on a scale of 1 to 10, so you know you're getting a good deal. Look for the green dots. That's good. The red dots, well, it's not so good. Plus, every ticket is backed by their buyer guarantee. And of course, I have a code for you guys. You can use the code Giants Collective for 10% off your next set of tickets at SeatGeek. That's 10% off any tickets with the promo code Giants Collective. Make sure you click that link in the description to download the app and have the code automatically added to your account so you can use it later. Thank you, SeatGeek, for sponsoring Giants Collective, and let's go Giants! I'm right. I used mine to get my tickets for the 49er game, so like I said, I might as well get 10% off. You know, that'll pay for like one beer, and that'll be good to go. I want to give a big shout out to Sleeper. Of course, Sleeper sponsors this portion of the show, and I've had a lot of fun on Sleeper. It's pretty much just picking over/under on player stats. Make sure you use that promo code HMA. You get a 100% match deposit bonus all the way up to $100 in bonus cash. Take advantage of it. Have some fun from SeatGeek. We'll hear from them a little bit later in the show. Let's get to some of these super chats really quick. DRL, thank you, brother. He says, no way Hudson starts on Sunday, right? Go Giants.
Hudson's got a better chance at swimming in the Hudson River.
I don't agree. I have heard two different things now that make me panic a little bit if Andrew Thomas is not ready. Brian Dable's press conference yesterday, and look, I know that he is always going to stand up for his players, but he was like overly complimentary of James Hudson, saying that he's a smart football player. Yeah, there's stuff that he has to clean up, but we all have to clean things up. One of the false starts wasn't even on him, which is bullshit because it was. Then he was defending him about the defensive lineman slipped. He basically like said everything so nice about Hudson, and I forget what else he said, but it was something that I was like, this is alarming to me that he is like glazing on James Hudson right now. And then I was listening to the Giant Insider, and Chris Bisignano, who's a Giants beat writer, who's like usually pretty spot on, said they love James Hudson and that he wouldn't be surprised if they trot him out there on Sunday. And I was like, okay, this is what I was thinking, but I'm like, there's no way. But I'm just saying there's a chance that might happen, and it would not surprise me at this rate that they're going to put him out there, and then if he looks bad or gets a penalty, he'll have a very short leash, but I won't be surprised one bit if they start him out there. He also, Dable said that he loves his edge. They kind of just have to like rein it in check with the penalties. I was like,
yeah, so I didn't see that press conference, so I wouldn't have said that if I saw that. I didn't know that, but I think it would be very foolish if they put James Hudson in the lineup this week, especially with the way that Bo looked last week. I'm leaning, though, based off just what I read today on Twitter. It seems like Andrew Thomas is trending towards playing.
Yeah. But it wouldn't surprise me because this coaching staff is so stubborn. The special teams coordinator said today that we might see Tyrone Tracy doing the returns again. I'm like, what? Do we not learn from literally any mistake that has been made? First, it was Adoree Jackson, which at that point should have been enough is enough at this point. Then Wan'Dale Robinson, who injures his fucking calf or his ankle on the return. And now you're going to risk it to Tyrone Tracy when you're wasting a roster spot on Jalen Hyatt, who's doing jack shit for this goddamn team. You have Bo Collins, who can return. You have 3 players now on the practice squad that can do it, between Turbo, Dalen Cambry, who they just added back to the practice squad, and Amir Smith-Marset. It drives me fucking insane. It's the most asinine decision that they make over and over again. And I swear to God, if they do it with Tyrone Tracy and he gets injured, I'm going to riot with a sign outside of fucking MetLife Stadium. Or maybe I'm going to send them in the plane next.
Behind the banner.
that says, I hate everyone.
I will say, though, to Dable's credit, going back to the James Hudson thing, he's always the first one to defend his players, even the worst players on this team making the worst mistakes. And I do think that's why we haven't seen a relative mutiny in the locker room over the last couple of years. Because if you think back to when Joe Judge, remember when things got ugly during his final season and the players made it known that they couldn't stand him. They wouldn't say it outright, but we all knew that they hated Joe Judge. And I even think the same thing happened with Pat Shurmur. It definitely happened with Ben McAdoo. What John Mara usually looks for when he decides whether or not to fire a head coach is have the players turned on that coach yet. Once the players turn on the coach, it's pretty short after that the coach gets the boot. But the players have not turned on Brian Dable, and I think it's because of moments like this. He had every opportunity there to stand up and criticize James Hudson or just not defend him. He didn't have to go to the lengths that he did to defend him, to try and exonerate him for a false start, talk about how he brings so much to the practice field and everything. Like, he goes out of his way to be complimentary to his players and to really defend them. And I do give Brian Dable credit for that. I think that he is a good leader. And while we kind of speculate that maybe coaches don't get along well with him, I think that the players do. And I think that's why he's still the coach of this team and why they didn't make the tough decision to fire him at the end of the 2024 season. So I'll give him credit for that.
That's probably all he gets credit for, because like Adriana mentioned, I mean, it's not even, I understand if you make a bad decision, everybody makes mistakes, but we keep doing it. Like, it's like she said, they don't learn. And I don't understand. Like, James Hudson, listen, not only did he have 60 yards and penalties, I mean, he just hasn't been a good left tackle on top of it. I mean, it's not like he had a bad series and, he's been a great left tackle. It's not like he's been a wall over there. He's been a turnstile, because he also gave up either a pressure or a sack on the same drive. That's the worst drive I've ever seen a lineman have. So,
and he wasn't great the week before either.
No, that's what I'm saying. It's not like he's played good and he just had a bad drive. And yeah, you can give Dable credit for defending him. You really don't want to see your coach just chuck a player under the bus. But what I really did like from Dable is that he pulled him and said, nope, you're done, man. You lost your head. And I thought Marcus Bowe was fantastic at his plays. So that was one. There was a few positives that came out of the game, but I thought Marcus Bowe was another positive. I don't think James Hudson would start. I'd be surprised. I think, like Anthony said, he was just defending him. But I can't see a scenario, especially if Andrew Thomas is good to go. Now, I don't think Andrew Thomas would play every snap. Maybe he will. Like, maybe that's what they were waiting for to bring him back, is that he can go the entire distance. He's not going to be on a pitch count, I hope. I mean, I don't know what you're going to get from Andrew Thomas. I will say this: it'll be better than anything else you've had over there. It's got to be. Yeah. So that's encouraging. And we're definitely going to need him against the Chiefs. What's that?
Better than Hudson, at least.
Yeah.
So,
I don't think they should play Andrew Thomas if he is on a pitch count, though.
I agree.
That sounds like a disaster waiting to happen. If he's not fully ready to play from start to finish, then don't play him. Because if you were to pull him, because if you're going to take him out for a series, I mean, the way that'll disrupt the entire communication of the offensive line. Because remember, we used to actually dig into Brian Dable for exactly this. He would have the guard rotation, which never made sense to me. I thought that was always stupid. And even former players were like, why are they doing this? How are you supposed to get into a flow, into a continuous rhythm in the game if you're rotating each series with another offensive lineman? It doesn't work. So I really hope that that's not something that they're thinking of doing, is pulling a page out of that playbook that they should have thrown in the trash can after last season. If Andrew Thomas is ready to play, he's got to play the whole way, in my opinion.
Joe Judge did that too, by the way. Remember, Joe Judge used to sub linemen in and out.
Weird.
Which I hated. Yeah.
I can't build any. But that's my point, is maybe they were just waiting for him to be like, he can go all the way, instead of being 80% and playing 80% of the snaps, because you're going to mess up the timing of the offensive line. So maybe they were just being extra cautious, and they were hoping to get one of those 2 games, and they really should have won the last one. But if the Giants are going to win any games and their offense is it was very productive, but if you wanted to be consistent, you need Andrew Thomas. So we obviously missed him. But Chris says it all the time. We're not a very good line with him in there. We are like the worst offensive line of football without him in there. And they played well, but Dallas sucks. I mean, let's not.
This week,
Dallas is really, really bad. They're the worst defense in football.
They were really bad last week.
They were horrible. So we'll see how good that line is this week, because that's not Dallas over there this time. Cruise on. Thank you, brother. He says, never been a fan of Slayton. Never understood the love this guy gets from Giants fans. He doesn't disappear for quarters. He disappears for games. Chris, don't say it.
No, I like Slayton, so I disagree with Cruz on that. So it's nothing to do with yesterday. I like Slayton. But I think Slayton's had his ups and downs with the team, right? I think early on in his career, he had a lot of drop problems. His rookie year was fantastic. We were all aboard, and then he had some drop problems. The playoff game against Minnesota, people forget, came very close to costing us that game. He had a crucial drop late in that game. So it's not like he's been a perfect player for this team. But I think the reason why a lot of Giants fans like Darius Slayton, he's consistent, he's a leader, and he's been through the toughest times with this team, and he's rode it out, and he's voluntarily wanted to come back and play for this team. And as I said earlier, I think the main reason why I respect him as much as I do is how much he stood up for his teammates, Daniel Jones specifically, when he was a punching bag. And whether you like Daniel Jones or not, I think that's a sign of a good team. And I think a lot of Giants fans respect him because of that.
Yeah, I agree. I think that's the big thing. Like I mentioned, before, we're a lousy team. We've seen the best players leave here. We saw Barkley leave here, didn't want to be here. McKinney kind of fell out of favor, but I think McKinney was being vocal because he wanted out of here. Obviously, I wouldn't say Daniel Jones wanted out of here, but they kind of wanted him out of here. Players want to get out. Players want to win. They want to get paid, but they also want to win. So the fact that Darius Slayton decided to not only stay with the Giants, but to take a pay cut to stay with the Giants, I think that spoke to his leadership. He does stand up for his teammates. He is one of the most tenured wide receivers. He might be the most tenured wide receiver in that locker room. And also he was a 5th round pick. I mean, it's not like he was the 5th overall pick. So he's given you great value.
It's one of our best draft picks over the last 10 years when you factor in value. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think that's why he gets the respect that he does. He's a solid receiver, but yeah, he wasn't the 5th overall. I mean, he's not Malik Neighbors. He's not Justin Jefferson. There's very few guys at that level, but like I said, he's kind of like, he's not as good as Amani Toomer, but he's that type of guy where he was just always there. He was solid. You were happy Toomer won. You hope that a guy like Darius Slayton can win at some point with the Giants. That'd be great. But I think it's because of his professionalism and the fact that he's a team guy and he could have easily turned his back on his team and everything else, and he didn't do it. So I think that's why he gets a good amount of respect. And he has come up big. He's had big games for the New York Giants. So, I think that's why he gets the respect.
He's a solid player. He's a good player.
Exactly. He's a solid player. So he's not an elite guy, but he's not a scrub. He's a solid NFL wide receiver.
Yeah.
As our guy SPP Williams, an absolute legend, 12:46 in the morning over there in the UK. He says, "Happy Collective Day. In the Super Bowl, the Eagles rushed 4 and beat the Chiefs. How different was their scheme to what Bowen's one we find so frustrating?"
When Bowen rushes 4, it's different because he doesn't have the same caliber of talent in the secondary that the Eagles have. That's what makes a difference, because we definitely have the defensive line and the pass rushers to rush 4 and win. Our pass rushers have been getting home. I mean, Brian Burns has 3 sacks. Kayvon Thibodeau has, I think, 2. Elijah Garcia has 1. Like, the guys are getting home in the pass rushing department. But the reason why the Chiefs ended up getting sacked that many times in the Super Bowl and why the Eagles had so much success, they had Cooper DeJean with a pick 6. They had, Quinyon Mitchell. They have a lot of talent in the secondary, and that's what makes the big difference, because that forces Patrick Mahomes just to hold the ball for a second longer, and now he's getting hit, and that 1 second makes all the difference in the world.
Facts. You nailed it. That's exactly what it is. When the secondary is good, the quarterback has to hold it for a half second longer. The pass rush is there. If the guys get open immediately, I don't care how good your pass rush is, it's not getting there. So
and they also had a better defensive coordinator. I mean, it's like Vic Fangio is leaps and bounds better than what we have with Shane Bowen. So
but I think Anthony, this secondary is a big,
of course,
But that's why I would like to see the Giants play press. Because you jam a receiver at the line of scrimmage. It's that split second can be the difference between a 15-yard pass and a sack. And if you're playing soft zone and the guy can just run out 8 yards and turn around on 1st and 10 or 2nd and 12, and you're giving him 9 yards, of course, a guy like Pat Mahomes is going to take that all day. Pat Mahomes would rather give you death by 1,000 paper cuts than one big, shotgun blast. He doesn't need to do that. So Bowen's got to be smart with this one, and he has to be aggressive. That's simply that. Because if you're not, he's going to kill you. So, like I said, man, either death by 1,000 paper cuts or pin your ears back and try to knock him down.
Yeah, and to that point, like Chris said, Fangio is a much better defensive coordinator than Bowen. When Bowen drops into, let's say, a cover 2 zone, pre-snap, it just looks like a cover 2 zone. Fangio has these disguised coverages where you don't know if it's 3, if it's 4, if it's man, if it's zone. He moves the pieces around, and that's what makes the Eagles so difficult to diagnose pre-snap, and that's why they gave Patrick Mahomes trouble. Patrick Mahomes is one of the smartest pre-snap quarterbacks in the NFL. That's why he's so successful. But when you're sitting down in a cover 2 zone, but you're telling the whole offense that that's what you're sitting down in, that's when they start picking you apart. And I honestly think that's really what went wrong for the Giants defense at the end of that game versus Dallas. There was no pre-snap movement from the defensive side of the ball. We always talk about pre-snap motion and things that the offense does before the ball is snapped. That's a big part of it. But the defense, the best defenses in the NFL, they do that stuff too. You'll see these safeties that drop into the box and then all of a sudden bail, and now they're playing single high. When they move around like that, that trips up a quarterback. That adds 1 extra second to the processing post-snap, and that extra second the pass rush gets home. But Bowen is as conservative as they come. He's not aggressive, and he's not complex with his defensive scheme. It's very vanilla. He just sits down in a zone, and that's when guys like Dak Prescott start picking you apart and taking what the defense is giving you. And Patrick Mahomes will do the same thing. So until the secondary improves itself, and maybe that's part of why they're not disguising the coverages, but until the secondary improves itself and until they start disguising some of those coverages, the pass rush is only going to have so much that it can do.
And I think that is a part of it. I don't want to put all of it on Bowen. I do think it's a combination of the two. I agree.
I'm putting it on Bowen's ass. Jib NYC, thank you, says, hey, ladies. I know winning is the point, but I got to say I was surprised of overwhelming negative reactions of pundits after what was an amazing game we haven't seen in a long time. Fans since 76.
Yeah, I get it, Jib. And I enjoyed watching the game as a fan. I didn't enjoy the outcome. But I think the reason for the negative outputs was because it was Dallas, first off. It wasn't like you were going up against a non-divisional rival, a team that we haven't beaten Dak since his rookie year. And it was a game as competitive as it was, as many people didn't think it would be competitive going into the game, and they didn't think our offense would look nearly that good. There were definitely a lot of positives that came out of that game, but it was a game at the end of the game where you felt like we beat ourselves. And for me, it's hard to have a positive reaction, regardless of your expectations for the team this year. When the Giants play a game, they're not good enough to beat themselves. And when they have an opportunity to beat the Dallas Cowboys and they outplay them, I thought they outplayed them in all 3 facets of the game, and they found a way to lose. The special teams was better. Well, the defense wasn't good. It was better than Dallas's. We had wide receivers running wide open down the seam the entire game with Wan'Dale Robinson. So that was what, at least for me personally, that's why I was pissed off at the end of the game. I understand that the offense looked a lot better. I understand that this is not a year where the Giants are going to win a Super Bowl, but to have 160 yards of penalties, it just felt like a game where the Giants beat themselves. To see Shane Bowen give that game away at the end when the Giants drop back and, like Anthony said, in obvious zone coverage and hand them that field goal opportunity, I think that was what it is. And at the end of the day, it's about wins and losses. And as a fan, when your team has an opportunity to win a football game, you want them to win, regardless of what the expectations are.
I think it's the way we lost. I think if they had 2.5 minutes to go down and even score a touchdown, and they did it, it would suck. But you could, whatever, you would live with it. It's the fact we scored with 25 seconds to go, and you allow them. You knew damn well who their kicker was. You can't even let them get to midfield. And the fact that the first play of that series, they brought heat and got there and almost forced a turnover, and then you backed out. Like Anthony says, no disguise. Here's 18 yards. Have it.
Yes. And I see Marvin saying, nah, Aubrey beat us. And that's a fair point. Like it was a very impressive kick. But at the end of the day, you have to know that Aubrey's on that roster. Right. and you have to play defense, and call a defense if you're Shane Bowen, knowing that he's not a kicker where you could afford to give up 15 yards, where most kickers you can. So I think that was why a lot of people came down on Bowen. You played in basically prevent defense, and you allowed them to get to the 50-yard line. With Aubrey on that team, you can't do that. So, yes, give all the credit in the world to Aubrey. It was an incredible kick. But the Giants should have known he's very capable of making that kick, and they should have at least given themselves an opportunity not to allow them to get to midfield.
They had to play that game, the end of that game, like the 50-yard line was the end zone.
Yeah.
That was the way they had to play that. They couldn't let him get there or past it. They had to keep him on there. And listen, if he kicks a 68-yarder, so be it. But he can hit from 64. He's done it before. So,
well, and also we have been watching a Giants offense that has been struggling to score touchdowns. We saw it week 1. We've seen it week 1 for the last 3 years. And we have just watched a horrible offensive showing week in and week out, with the exception of one Colts game and a Cardinals game 2 years ago. So the fact that they were able to put up 37 points and score 4 touchdowns after having issues in the red zone, after having 100+ yards in penalties, there were so many things that they struggled with, and yet they still put up that amount of points. That's a game you have to win. And the fact that they were about to win it until the last 15 seconds and the defensive coordinator just blew it is just unacceptable behavior, and to a division rival, no less.
Yeah, that's exactly it. Saraf Network, thank you so much. What's keeping us from picking up Desmond Watson? The fact he keeps picking up Big Macs and French fries. He's too heavy, man. He's 460 pounds. He's not in shape. Can't play. That's why. If he lost weight.
That's a little. I love 300-pound man. That's a little too big.
He's almost a 500-pound man. That's a big boy. That's a big guy.
That's a little too big. That's a little too big.
He's too big. He's just not in shape. I think that's why nobody's picked him up. Chislo, thank you, brother. If AT comes back, I say we put Bo at right guard because Jermaine has been good at right tackle. I hear Bo took 0 snaps at left tackle in college and about 700 at right guard. Then what do you think? Van Roten's near the end, but
I think I would love that, Gisolo. And as much as I want to see it right away, I don't expect it right away. If they're going to transition him to the guard, I think it's probably something that they're going to do throughout the course of the year in practice, and they get him comfortable at that spot. So I could certainly see it before the end of the year for sure, maybe even within 3 or 4 weeks. But I don't expect them to put Bo at the guard in this game or probably the week after. If he's going to play, I think it'll be at the tackle spot. And unfortunately, as much as I want to see Bo out there, regardless if Andrew Thomas plays or not, I don't think Illuminor is going to be willing to shift to the guard. So my guess would be if Thomas plays, as much as I want to see Bo, I thought he had a great performance last week. He's probably the swing tackle, at least for the next couple of weeks. And maybe they start to, prepare to transition him to the guard as the year wears along. But I don't expect it this week or probably the week after.
JC, thank you, buddy. What's wrong with Okereke? Honestly, it can't be all on the coach. I liked Carl Banks' show today. He talked about Banks getting better.
Honestly, I don't think there is anything wrong with Bobby Okereke. I think all of this gets blown out of proportion from Giants fans. I think people need to remember Micah McFadden went down extremely early in that first game, and next to Bobby Okereke has been a rotation of Darius Muasau, Swayze Bozeman, and other bums. Like, that's just being plain about it. The linebackers next to him suck. So he has to do twice as much work in the middle of that defense. So he's all over the place. He's running. He's trying to cover people's assignments. He's also trying to relay the play calls, the shitty play calls that Shane Bowen is giving him. It's Bobby Okereke trying to relay that to the team and trying to get all of them in place. And then he's trying to get this linebacker who's barely ever played football before also in place on his left shoulder. So personally, I don't see as many issues with Bobby Okereke. I think he's been struggling in coverage, though. The fact that he has as many tackles as he has, he's leading the league in tackles right now. Usually a player who's leading the league in tackles is giving up a lot of receptions. And I think that's what he's doing wrong. But in run defense, I don't think he's been nearly as bad as Giants fans say. I think he's trying his best to fill his run gaps, but he's overcommitting to certain run gaps because the guy next to him doesn't know where to go. And that's where the issue lies. So they need Micah McFadden back. He's not going to be back for a while, but that was a major oversight, in my opinion, from the Giants front office this offseason. Added 0 talent at linebacker. They haven't even drafted a linebacker since Micah McFadden. Well, I don't know what they were thinking.
They drafted Muasau, but yes.
Well, Muasau, sure. Yeah. But they drafted him to play special teams. They didn't even draft him to play linebacker. He's not even a linebacker in their eyes. He's a special teams player. So they need more linebacker depth. They're not going to get it now mid-season. And unfortunately, Bobby Okereke's performance is going to suffer as a result of that.
Yeah. JC, thank you for doubling it up. He says, also, Carl talked about stop the obsession with Hyatt. I do agree he's a third-round player, but he's definitely on Slayton. He still has to see the field. I mean, there's no point in him holding a roster spot if he's going to hold a clipboard.
The problem is, why are you playing Bo Collins over him? Like, I get it if Bo Collins didn't get any snaps week 1, and then fine, it's not a problem. But they're both active, and we've seen and know that if something happens to Darius Slayton or they're getting blown out in the fourth quarter, they're putting in Jalen Hyatt as a last resort. They're going to put in Bo Collins, and then they're going to go to him. So it just seems like there's some sort of issue there. And when people in the building and people outside the building are questioning it, and we get no good answer other than, well, Jalen Hyatt we have a specific plan for him and he's involved in certain plays and blah, blah, blah. It's the same thing. Like, why is Evan Neal inactive on game day? It's obvious, I think, to a lot of us that they have given up on these players and they're not willing to officially cut the cord publicly. And I don't know what that's about. I don't know what the problem is there. It seems like it's just an optics thing. But Jalen Hyatt, this is his 3rd year on this football team, right? He drafted in 2023.
Yeah.
Third year on this football team. He has barely played. And he got a lot of reps during the summer before he got injured. He got some reps in preseason. We heard all about Russell Wilson, talk so much about Jalen Hyatt. You don't think if Russ Wilson was that high on Jalen Hyatt at this point in the season and thought that he was capable and trustworthy of being a good wide receiver for him, that Russell Wilson wouldn't be banging down Dable's door to get him in the game plan?
Listen, I want Jalen Hyatt to be successful. I want every player on this team to be successful. But for me, and not to say he can't be a quality depth receiver, sure, but the Giants clearly, when they signed Darius Slayton to the deal that they did, that to me told me all I needed to know about how they felt about Jalen Hyatt as a guy that they felt could be an impactful player for this roster. They spent good money on Darius Slayton. They drafted Jalen Hyatt. I think the plan was clear as day to replace Darius Slayton when they drafted Jalen Hyatt. And obviously, they're down on him. They wouldn't have brought Darius Slayton back if that wasn't the case. They gave him a good amount of money. I do want to say, because I'm a man of the people, and we're a woman and a man of the people, Jib at 1YC in the chat says, Anthony, I give $10, but didn't get to hear your take. I was hoping you were in my corner on being a tad bit optimistic. Let's just go back to Jib's comment because he wants Anthony. He wants Anthony.
I already did. I commented and I responded to him.
So you did. My mistake then. My mistake.
But yeah, I think everybody, if you've been watching the show recently, I've been at times the lone optimist here. I've definitely been more positive about things recently. And I don't blame anybody for being negative and pessimistic about this team. Certainly don't blame anybody on this panel for being frustrated and angry, especially since we devote so much time to talking about this team. When they're bad, it's really tough and it's really frustrating. But I have been a little bit more optimistic lately, and that's just my personal belief in Russell Wilson. I saw a lot of positives from the offense last week. So, yes, definitely feeling more optimistic. And I don't know if we're doing game picks and predictions at the end of the stream, but I'm going to pick a win again like I did last week. So, we'll see.
I was on a channel last night. I picked the Giants to win 21-20. So
nice.
Yeah, so there you go. You must have missed the last show because what did I start off with the last show? What did I say we're going to do? I said we're flipping a script, and I wanted to talk to everybody around the panel about what they liked and what was good about Sunday's game. So I actually was optimistic as well. But at the end of the day, we lost, and that blows. It just is what it is. But I did. I'm just want to. I just want to win. It's just amazing if we could have just held them for 15 seconds more. The attitude of the panel, the fan base, the play, like it would have just been so different. 15 seconds. That's it. Yep. If you would have missed the kick, which never happens against the Giants, obviously, things would have been so much different. It's just
the funny thing is, though, Baddog, some of our best wins over the last 3 or 4 years have come on missed kicks. But ironically, the missed kicks are like 30-yarders. They're like shimmies. You think about the Bucs game against Daniel Jones. You think about the Titans game week 1. They were like 32, 33.
Yeah, they're extra points.
So they missed the extra points, but they make 65-yarders. It doesn't make sense.
It doesn't make sense. Gixer, thank you, brother. Looking back at the offseason, should we have signed a couple of O-line free agents rather than getting Holland and Dable?
Well, supposedly they tried for Will Fries. He was like the number 1 guy on their free agent board. And I don't know if it was a money thing. I don't know what ended up happening. Obviously, it didn't work out. But Will Fries was a guy I was going on and on that I wanted them to sign. Dalton Reisner. There were a couple of guys available. I'm sure we went through all of them on this show too, because we were all like, you have to bring in more offensive linemen. Yeah. And then they ended up drafting Bo, but I'm sure we'll get into this at some point as what does the future of the offensive line look like. And I think we'd probably all agree that outside of Andrew Thomas, that Jermaine Illuminor is the best other offensive lineman on this team right now, that you got to re-sign him to a longer term deal. Like the Giants so desperately need him and they need to keep him. And then we'll see what they do this offseason. But if I were the Giants, I'd be going to him right now and be like, let's get the talks going. We need you here next year.
They're definitely bringing in a ton of linemen next year. Jackson Dart's your quarterback. There's just no way they're not going to.
They have to.
Like I said, they took a big swing of the defense this year. Next year, it's going to be all offense. So any money they have, a lot of their draft picks, I think they're going to go that side of the ball. We'll see. Johnny Ross, my guy Adam's in the house. What up, brother? Tomorrow is Saturday Eve. If you know, you know. If you don't work with me, you don't know. But it's Saturday Eve. What up, Baddog? It's Adams. Deonte Banks was atrocious. Why was Flott not utilized more? Shout out to Entertainah, Anthony, and Adriana. The Fab Four. If we lose, sell my tickets. He's going to the Chargers game. Well, if you sell those tickets, go to the 49er game with me, and you're good to go, because at least we'll have fun, regardless.
Hopefully you don't have to sell your tickets, and we get a win this week. That'd be nice. Yeah. Thank you for being here, man.
Cordell Flott obviously has actually been a pleasant surprise.
He was good last week, yeah. He was good.
So his PFF grade is pretty high. I forgot what it was. I looked at this today, and again, you could take that with a grain of salt, but it was like 75 or 76. He actually has improved a lot. But maybe it's me, man. I still think Deonte Banks. I still think there's something there. Like I feel like he can play.
Unfortunately, bad dog, and I hope this isn't the negative fan of me, because I've become more negative over the years, and I hate that.
I'm hanging out with me for
I want to be Mr. Optimist, but this team has just beat me down. Deonte Banks just feels like a player to me that when he leaves the Giants, he's going to find something, and he's going to be a really good corner. And
that's the thing with Evan Neal.
And I hope I'm wrong, and I hope he figures it out here. But I do see the talent, but I hope I'm wrong. I hope he ends. He gets his opportunity, he plays great here, but he just feels like that for me.
Yeah. Sean, thank you, brother. He says, red zone, thoughts about using Dart RPO in the red zone. I actually mentioned that in one of the streams that I did, that I think you will see that package like inside the 10. I do, because I think if you have the threat of Jackson Dart's legs, that opens up the running game. Dart can also, the defense just has to be aware of a lot more. They can try that with Russ. Russ can't move it the way he used to. You saw the difference. They tried that. Russ got 2 yards. They brought Dart in. Scatterbo got 25 yards. So I definitely think there'll be a package for him inside the red zone against.
It couldn't hurt. The red zone offense, like Anthony said on Tuesday, as good as the offense looked last week, the red zone offense was still really bad. So it couldn't hurt to try to add a wrinkle in the red zone. So I'm for that. They already broke it out, and you would think that would be most appropriate in the red zone. So I could see it.
Really quick, again, want to give a big shout out to Sleeper sponsoring this portion of Giants Collective. Let's hear from them. 30 seconds back with the rest of the Super Chats right after this.
Sleeper is the #1 fantasy sports app. It pays to know sports. Pick more or less on top players. Your first pick is on us, so start winning now. Play in Texas, Georgia, Minnesota, and 27 more states. Pick anytime across all sports, pregame or live. Over 10 million players are already on Sleeper. Make your picks count. Score up to 1,000 times your cash. Join today. Get up to $100 credit using the code HMA. Call your shot on Sleeper. Download now.
Big shout out to Sleeper. And Malik Neighbors also was giving us a shout out to Sleeper on Sunday.
As much as I love Leak and an incredible of a game and catch that was, you did it a little too early.
Yeah, well, I mean, but it's funny because when you see him go to the sideline, he did do that, but I think he knew there was more to do. He wasn't like, they weren't like celebrating. By the way, did you see Scatterbo grab? I mean, you had to have seen him grab Russ. Yeah. How do you not? I'm buying a Scatterbo jersey. I'm like, that sold me. That's the one. That's the guy. Buying it.
By the way, I loved what Leak, I can't stop praising the guy, not just on the field, but the way he handles the media and his leadership. I love how Leak took ownership for the Russell Wilson interception in the overtime period. Like, I think he is such an underrated leader. Like if he's not the captain next year, I'll be surprised. That's been the most pleasant surprise with me with Leak since he's been a Giant. I knew the second we drafted him, Baddog, we got ourselves a ridiculous receiver. But he continues to impress me with his leadership, man. I love the way that he responded to that question.
He's very mature beyond his years for a 22-year-old guy that's seen nothing but losing and knows he's an elite talent without question.
Yeah.
I also love watching Jameis Winston go over and talk to James Hudson. Like these guys are like really, they're good. You know what I mean? Like they're good people. Like there's good leaders on this team. For them, I want to see it translate onto the field. I feel like these guys deserve to win. You saw how the linemen lifted up Russell Wilson and were hugging him, and we should have won that game. Like those guys deserve it to me. Like they played their ass off. And again, it was just, to me, it was bad coaching. I don't think it was anything the defense did at the end of that game. That's just a terrible scheme that he ran there. You allowed him to have it. I think if he would have pressed, I don't think they would have given up shit. I don't think they would have. I think if he would have just went after the quarterback and made Dak beat you deep, that wasn't happening. Even if he went deep, that's going to take a lot more time off the clock. So, again, Leak took ownership. He didn't even need to. That shit should have never happened. It should have never went to overtime. Freaking Bowen needs to take ownership for that loss. Sticky Bandit, thank you, bro. Sticky here. What up, y'all? Listen and watch y'all every day. About to add y'all to my will. Appreciate you, Sticky Bandit. Hashtag Leak Triple Crown.
He knows. But by the way, that's a Home Alone reference, right? Sticky Bandits. Love that. Love that name.
Yeah, they leave the water running. That's their call-in card. And say, oh, thank God you did that. Now we know every house you hit. That's great.
Thank you for watching, Sticky Bandit.
Yeah. Chislo, thank you, brother. We start the game with an 80-yard touchdown Hyatt. He ain't going to be on the field.
No, but if they did that, we'd all be thrilled. We have all talked about how we like Jalen Hyatt. I was so excited when they drafted him. I follow the SEC, was thrilled. And I just have been so disappointed with whatever's gone on there year in and year out. I mean, we would all be, we're all cheering for him to succeed. It just seems like there's a huge issue with him and this coaching staff that for whatever reason, they're not putting him on the field. And we may never know why, but
I don't want to make it a college football thing, Adriana, but I was thinking about what the hell happened to the Gamecocks against Vanderbilt. What the hell was that? What the hell was that?
Sellers got injured, and it was like they don't know how to play football anymore. I
just saw the finals. I saw the final score. I'm like, what the hell happened?
Yeah, our beloved quarterback, Lenora Sellers, left the game with a concussion. I think it was like second quarter-ish.
He's good.
And it was brutal. And of course, the stats, they're like talking out in the broadcast of how like in the last 16 matchups between Vanderbilt and South Carolina 16-0. I'm like, here we fucking go.
That's why I didn't know. And it was so one-sided. I'm like, what the hell happened in that game? So I wasn't sure. I was like, oh, that's a brutal loss. Martial Law, thank you so much. He says that was the first fun watching loss in years.
Mm-hmm.
I never have fun watching a loss, but it was the most entertaining. It was the most entertaining loss. I'm trying to think of a game. I mean, obviously you think about the Saints game with Eli, but that's so long ago at this point. I'm trying to think of the
Cardinals comeback game was fun when they were down. 21-0 at the half or something.
Yeah. That was incredible. We won that game. You also had the Saints game with Daniel Jones where we had a great comeback where we won in overtime. That was
I think the last exciting game that we lost like that was when Dex jumped off sides in a field goal. Yeah. That was one where I remember Jones ran for like a 40-yard touchdown. They called it back in a bullshit holding call. Yeah. I remember he missed Darius Slayton by this much for a touchdown in that game. And Dexter Lawrence wasn't even off sides. And they called him off sides. And it's just we got to win, guys and gal. We got to win. We have to win.
So desperately.
Jaden, thank you. First MetLife game since Seattle in 2023. I have PTSD.
Oof.
I was at that game too, and after Jones threw that pick six, I was with my brother and a friend, and we were like, "We're out of here. It's over."
That was awful. That was all. There hasn't been many good games at MetLife Stadium recently. We started 0-8 last year. And then, ironically, we beat the Colts. And it's crazy. Jib NYC, he says, win Sunday. I'm putting my $2 putting my super chat $2 Sunday ticket. Bro, we can win. We can beat the Chiefs, but we can't beat ourselves.
I agree. We can. I'm more optimistic about this team. At least my opinion after week 2, I don't fully believe in this offense yet because the Dallas defense I think is pitiful.
It's awful.
But I think the Giants defense is going to get a lot better as the year progresses. I'm still not out on the Giants defense. I don't think Shane Bowen's going to get the most out of it because I don't think he's a very good defensive coordinator. But I do see signs of the defense. Like the pass rush to me looks a lot better than it did last year, as it should. And I think it's only going to get better throughout the course of the year. So I think there's positive signs for the Giants. The offense looked better last week, and we'll see if, I do think it'll be competitive this week, and I think we'll have a chance to win.
I do too.
Yeah.
With that said, that brings us to the end of another edition of Giants Collective. Again, a huge shout out to Sleeper for sponsoring this portion of the show. Make sure you go into the description, enter that promo code HMA to get a 100% match deposit bonus all the way up to $100 in bonus cash. You're going to have a lot of fun with that. Go do some picks in this Dolphins-Bills games that we're all about to watch. And again, I want to give a big shout out, of course, to SeatGeek for sponsoring the first portion of the show. Make sure you go into the description. Buy some tickets. If you're going to buy tickets, get them at SeatGeek and use that promo code Giants Collective 10. There you go. To get 10% off your SeatGeek tickets. Check us out on Instagram and TikTok. If you want to become a member, get the cool emojis in your names in the outro. Just hit the join button. Check us out on Apple, Spotify, Amazon, and wherever else you get your podcasts. And with that said, for Adriana, Anthony, and Entertainah, it is the Bad Diggity Dizzle. We will see you next time. Hopefully Tuesday we're talking about a win. Let's go Giants.
Yes.
And the outro is not working, so I don't know what to say here.
Put it in the book reel.
There we go. See you later. My bad. Aaron